Emily Finch leaned back in her chair, staring intently at the artifact laid out on the workbench before her. The ancient relic, unearthed by chance during a routine archaeological dig in the deserts of the American Southwest, radiated an energy that defied explanation. As the leading xenorchaeologist at the Smithsonian Institution, Emily had dedicated her career to studying the origins and development of alien civilizations. But this newfound treasure challenged everything she thought she knew about the Galactic Order. Delicately running her fingers along the artifact's intricate surface, Emily marveled at its elegant yet clearly advanced design. The materials used in its construction were unlike anything found on Earth, and the complex glyphs etched into its metallic frame were indecipherable to her team of linguists. "This shouldn't be possible," she murmured, brow furrowed in deep contemplation. "According to our historical records, humans were still confined to a single planet when the first alien species made contact. So how could we have created something of this technological sophistication?" Emily's assistant, a young graduate student named Alex, hovered nearby, equally enthralled by the artifact's mysteries. "Do you think it could be some kind of sophisticated hoax? Maybe planted here to mislead us?" Shaking her head, Emily replied, "No, the dating and composition analysis prove this is genuine. Whatever this is, it predates our earliest encounters with extraterrestrial civilizations by centuries, if not millennia." She paused, the implications of her own words weighing heavily. "Which means?" Her voice trailed off as the realization dawned on them both. If this artifact was indeed created by human hands in the distant past, then it could only mean one thing. Humanity's history was far more expansive and technologically advanced than anyone had ever imagined. "The Galactic Council has to know about this," Alex said urgently. "They've always regarded us as a young, primitive species. But if we can prove we were spacefaring long before their kind, it could completely upend the existing order." Emily nodded solemnly. "Exactly. That's why we need to proceed with the utmost caution. We have to verify our findings beyond any doubt before going public." She turned to face her assistant, eyes narrowed with determination. "Pack your bags, Alex. We're taking this artifact back to our lab for a full, in-depth analysis. I have a feeling our lives are about to get a whole lot more complicated." Over the next several weeks, Emily and her team worked tirelessly, subjecting the artifact to a battery of highly specialized tests. They scanned its molecular structure, probed its electromagnetic properties, and even attempted to decipher the strange glyphs that covered its surface. With each new discovery, the evidence mounted, painting an increasingly astonishing picture of humanity's forgotten past. The artifact's composition was unlike anything found naturally on Earth, containing elements and alloys that defied conventional metallurgy. Its power source, a compact fusion reactor, produced energy signatures that were millions of years more advanced than humanity's current capabilities. And the glyphs, once cracked by the team's top linguists, revealed a complex written language predating even the earliest known forms of human communication. As the data piled up, Emily found herself torn between her scientific curiosity and a growing sense of unease. If the implications of their findings were true, then everything she thought she knew about the history of human civilization and its place in the galactic community was about to be turned on its head. "This changes everything," she murmured one evening, staring pensively at the artifact's enigmatic form. "The Galactic Council has to be informed. They need to know the truth about us, that we're not the young, primitive species they've always dismissed us as. We were out there, exploring the stars, long before any of them." Alex nodded solemnly. "I agree. But how are they going to react? They've built their entire power structures and political hierarchies around the assumption of human inferiority. Acknowledging our true status as an elder species could threaten to upend the entire galactic order." Emily's lips tightened into a thin line. "I know. That's why we have to be exceedingly careful in how we proceed. This information could be volatile, maybe even dangerous. We need to verify everything, multiple times, before making any moves." Turning to her assistant, Emily's gaze hardened with determination. "Pack your bags again, Alex. We're going to have to take this directly to the Galactic Council. They need to hear it straight from us. The future of humanity, and possibly the entire galaxy, may hang in the balance." As the two researchers prepared to embark on their momentous journey, the ancient artifact continued to hum with an otherworldly energy, as if sensing the profound impact it was about to have on the course of galactic history. The sleek alien spacecraft glided effortlessly through the void of space, its occupants fixated on the blue-green orb that filled the viewport. Emily Finch took a deep, steadying breath as the craft began its descent towards the surface of Earth. Beside her, Alex fidgeted nervously, his eyes darting around the unfamiliar cabin. "I still can't believe the Galactic Council agreed to meet with us. Do you really think they're ready to hear what we have to say?" Emily offered a reassuring nod. "They have to be. The evidence we've uncovered is irrefutable. Humanity's technological capabilities and historical timeline far surpass anything the Council has on record. They can't ignore this." As the spacecraft touched down in a remote corner of the Arizona desert, a contingent of heavily armed alien guards emerged to escort the two researchers. Emily couldn't help but notice their cautious, almost wary demeanor, a stark contrast to the aloof condescension she had come to expect from representatives of the Galactic Council. "Follow us," one of the guards commanded in a clipped, authoritative tone. "The Council is waiting." Exchanging a brief, apprehensive glance with Alex, Emily fell into step behind the entourage, her mind racing with 1,000 questions. What would the Council's reaction be? Would they even believe the truth about humanity's past? And most importantly, how would they choose to respond? The journey through the Council's sprawling subterranean complex was a blur of stark geometric architecture and heavily secured corridors. Finally, they arrived at a grand circular chamber, its high domed ceiling adorned with an intricate mosaic of the known galaxies. Seated around a massive central table were the representatives of the Galactic Council, a diverse array of alien species, each with a distinct physiological appearance and cultural disposition. As Emily and Alex were ushered into the chamber, all eyes turned to them, the weight of their collective gaze palpable. A tall reptilian figure rose from the head of the table, fixing the two humans with an inscrutable stare. "Emily Finch, Alex Nguyen, you have been summoned here today to present evidence that challenges the very foundation of our galactic order. I trust you understand the gravity of the situation." Emily steeled her nerves, stepping forward. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council, we would not have come before you if we did not have conclusive proof of our findings. The artifact we discovered on Earth demonstrates that humanity's technological and historical development far predates the earliest records of your own civilizations." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the chamber, and Emily could sense the tension rising. The reptilian figure, whom she now recognized as the Council's supreme arbiter, raised a clawed hand to silence the dissent. "This is a bold claim, Dr. Finch, one that, if true, would upend everything we thought we knew about the origins of sentient life in this galaxy. You understand that the implications of such a revelation could be destabilizing." Emily nodded solemnly. "I understand the magnitude of what we're presenting. That's why we've taken every possible measure to verify the data. The artifact's composition, power source, and even its written language are centuries, if not millennia, ahead of anything humanity has achieved in our recorded history." Reaching into her satchel, she withdrew a compact data drive and placed it on the Council's table. "All of our findings, along with the raw data, are contained in this archive. We ask that you review it thoroughly and convene a special committee to evaluate the evidence." The Supreme Arbiter regarded the drive with a pensive expression, then turned his gaze back to the two humans. "Your request will be considered. In the meantime, you and your assistant will be escorted to secure quarters to await the Council's decision." As the guards ushered Emily and Alex out of the chamber, the uneasy silence that had settled over the Galactic Council gave way to a flurry of hushed, agitated discussions. The ramifications of what the humans had presented were staggering, threatening to upend the very foundations of the Galactic Order. Once they were safely behind closed doors, Alex turned to Emily, his eyes wide with apprehension. "What do you think they'll do? If they accept the truth about our past, it could change everything. The Council's entire power structure is built on the assumption of human inferiority." Emily sank into a chair, her expression grim. "I know. That's precisely why I'm worried. They may see our revelations as an existential threat to their authority. And if that's the case," her voice trailed off, the unspoken implication hanging heavy in the air. Outside, the members of the Galactic Council continued to debate the matter, their voices rising in a cacophony of concern and indignation. For the first time in their collective history, the future of the Galactic Order seemed uncertain, all because of a handful of ancient relics unearthed from a remote corner of a backwater planet. As the hours ticked by, Emily and Alex could only wait, their fate and that of their entire species hanging in the balance. Hours stretched into days as Emily Finch and Alex Nguyen waited anxiously in their secured quarters, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Beyond the thick, reinforced walls, the Galactic Council deliberated, their voices echoing in muffled tones through the corridors. Finally, the doors slid open, and a pair of armed guards entered. "The Council is ready to see you," one of them announced gruffly. Emily and Alex exchanged a tense glance before following the guards back to the grand chamber. As they stepped through the threshold, the room fell silent, all eyes turning to them with a mixture of curiosity and guarded apprehension. The Supreme Arbiter, his reptilian features impassive, rose from his seat at the head of the table. "Dr. Finch, Mr. Nguyen, the Galactic Council has reviewed the evidence you have presented. We must admit that your findings are compelling." He paused, his clawed fingers drumming against the polished surface of the table. "The artifact you discovered demonstrates a level of technological sophistication that predates the earliest records of our own civilizations. And the written language you've decoded points to a complex society that thrived long before our first encounters with your species." Emily felt a glimmer of hope, but the Arbiter's next words doused it. "However, the implications of these revelations are deeply troubling. If humans truly are an elder species, capable of interstellar travel and colonization, it calls into question the very foundations of the Galactic Council's authority and the existing order we've worked so hard to maintain." The Arbiter's gaze swept across the assembled representatives, his voice turning hard. "We cannot simply accept your findings at face value. The risk of disrupting the delicate balance of power within our community is far too great." Alex stepped forward, his expression one of mounting frustration. "But you must see the truth in our data. Humanity has been relegated to the status of a primitive, underdeveloped species for centuries, while in reality, we were once among the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Doesn't that demand a revaluation of your policies and your treatment of us?" The Arbiter raised a hand, silencing him. "Your passion is understandable, Mr. Nguyen. However, the Council's decision has been made. We will not be acknowledging or validating your claims about humanity's elder status." Emily felt her heart sink. "Then what will you do? Surely you can't simply dismiss our findings and continue to suppress the truth." The Arbiter's gaze hardened. "That is precisely what we intend to do. The data you have provided will be confiscated, and you and your assistant will be escorted back to your home planet. Any further attempts to disseminate this information will be met with severe consequences." Stunned silence fell over the chamber as the weight of the Arbiter's words sank in. Emily could scarcely believe what she was hearing. "You can't do this. Humanity deserves to know the truth about our past. We have a right to reclaim our rightful place in the galactic community." The Arbiter's expression remained impassive. "Your rightful place is as it has always been. A young, developing species, confined to your homeworld. Anything else would upset the delicate balance we have worked so hard to maintain. I'm sorry, but the decision is final." As the guards moved to escort them out of the chamber, Emily and Alex shared a desperate, defiant glance. They knew then that the Galactic Council had no intention of acknowledging the truth, even in the face of irrefutable evidence. Somehow, they had to find a way to expose the Council's deception and make the galaxy see humanity for what they truly were, the elder species. Once back in their secured quarters, Emily paced the room, her mind racing. There has to be a way to get this information out there. We can't just let them bury the truth forever. Alex watched her, his expression grim. But how? The Council has all the power. Ramirez raised a skeptical eyebrow. The Galactic Council, huh? That's a pretty bold claim. What makes you think I should believe a word you're saying? Because we have proof, Alex interjected, stepping forward. Proof that humanity was once a spacefaring civilization, capable of interstellar travel and colonization, long before the first contact with any alien species. The general's expression shifted, a flicker of curiosity crossing his features. Go on. Emily quickly explained the discovery of the ancient artifact, the team's exhaustive analysis, and the Galactic Council's refusal to acknowledge the truth. As she spoke, she could see the wheels turning in Ramirez's mind, the implications of their findings sinking in. So you're telling me that we've been relegated to second-class status in the galactic community, all because the Council is afraid of losing their grip on power? The general growled, his brow furrowed in anger. Exactly, Alex replied, his voice laced with urgency. And they've confiscated all the evidence and threatened to bury the truth forever. That's why we had to take a risk and reach out to you directly. Ramirez's gaze hardened, and he turned to one of the guards. Get me the Joint Chiefs on the line. Now. As the guard hurried to comply, the general fixed Emily and Alex with a piercing stare. You two have just blown this thing wide open. If what you're saying is true, then the implications for humanity are staggering. We can't let the Galactic Council sweep this under the rug. Emily felt a surge of relief, mixed with a twinge of apprehension. So you believe us then? You're going to do something about it? Ramirez nodded grimly. Damn right we are. This is our history, our birthright that the Council has been keeping from us. And we won't go down without a fight. The guard returned, handing Ramirez a secure communications device. The general wasted no time, quickly relaying the key details of Emily and Alex's findings to the Joint Chiefs. As the conversation progressed, his expression grew more resolute, his body language radiating a newfound determination. Finally, he ended the call, turning to the two researchers. Well, you've certainly kicked the hornet's nest. The brass is already mobilizing our best minds to verify your evidence and prepare a response to the Galactic Council. Emily felt a tentative smile tug at the corners of her mouth. So you're going to challenge them? Demand that they acknowledge the truth about humanity's past? Ramirez nodded, a steely glint in his eye. You bet your ass we are. This isn't just about our pride anymore. If what you say is true, then the Council has been keeping us in the dark, denying us our rightful place in the galaxy. And that's something we're not going to tolerate. He paused, his gaze sweeping over Emily and Alex. You two have done your part. Now let us handle the rest. We'll make sure the truth gets out there, no matter what it takes. As the general turned to leave, Emily felt a surge of hope, tinged with a glimmer of trepidation. The die had been cast, and the fate of humanity now rested in the hands of the most powerful military force on Earth. Whatever happened next, the world would never be the same. The news spread like wildfire, rippling through the highest echelons of power on Earth. Governments, militaries, and scientific institutions scrambled to verify the explosive claims made by Emily Finch and Alex Nguyen, their findings threatening to upend the very foundations of humanity's understanding of its place in the galaxy. In the halls of the Pentagon, a flurry of activity gripped the Joint Chiefs as they pored over the data smuggled from the Galactic Council. General Ramirez, his expression grim, presided over the hastily assembled meeting, his eyes burning with a sense of righteous indignation. The evidence is irrefutable. he declared, his voice carrying a tone of unwavering conviction. Humanity was once a spacefaring civilization, capable of interstellar travel and colonization, long before the first contact with any alien species. Around the table, the assembled military leaders exchanged a mix of stunned silence and murmured disbelief. For decades, they had operated under the assumption that their species was a relative newcomer to the galactic stage, inferior in both technology and cultural development. Now, that narrative had been shattered, and the implications were nothing short of earth-shattering. If this is true, one of the admirals finally spoke up, then the Galactic Council has been deliberately suppressing our history and denying us our rightful place in the cosmos. This is an unforgivable betrayal. Ramirez nodded, his jaw set with determination. Exactly, and we're not going to let them get away with it. We've already initiated a full-scale investigation to verify every aspect of Finch and Guillen's findings. Once we have the data solidified, we're going to confront the Council and demand they acknowledge the truth. Another general, her brow furrowed in contemplation, leaned forward. But how do we plan to do that? The Council holds all the cards. They control the flow of information, the balance of power in the galaxy. They'll do anything to protect their status quo. Ramirez's expression hardened. That's why we need to be prepared for the possibility of direct confrontation. We may have to assert our rightful place in the galactic order through force, if necessary. The room erupted in a buzz of heated discussion as the implications of the general's words sank in. For the first time in human history, the prospect of interstellar warfare was a very real possibility. As the meeting drew to a close, Ramirez turned to his subordinates, his gaze unwavering. Gentlemen, ladies, the fate of our species hangs in the balance. We can no longer afford to remain passive, content with our perceived inferiority. It's time we reclaimed our rightful place among the stars. He paused, fixing each of them with a steely stare. Mobilize our best and brightest. I want every resource at our disposal dedicated to this effort. We're going to war with the Galactic Council, if that's what it takes. Within the halls of the Galactic Council, the news of humanity's revelations had sent shockwaves through the alien governing body. The Supreme Arbiter, his reptilian features etched with a rare expression of unease, summoned his most trusted advisors to an emergency meeting. This is a grave situation, he began, his voice low and measured. The humans have somehow managed to bypass our security measures and disseminate their findings to their own kind. Now, they're demanding that we acknowledge their claims of elder status. One of the advisors, a tall, insectoid creature, shifted nervously. But, Honored Arbiter, we cannot simply concede to their demands. Doing so would undermine the very foundation of the Galactic Council's authority. Our entire power structure is predicated on the assumption of human inferiority. The Arbiter nodded, his clawed fingers drumming against the polished table. I am well aware of the implications, Counselor Xen. However, we cannot afford to dismiss this threat outright. The humans have clearly managed to rally the support of their own military forces, a development that could have catastrophic consequences for the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. Another advisor, a diminutive, amphibious being, spoke up. Then what do you propose we do, Honored Arbiter? We cannot simply acknowledge their claims and risk the dissolution of the Council, nor can we ignore the growing threat they pose. The Arbiter's gaze narrowed, a glimmer of calculating resolve flickering in his eyes. We must take decisive action, Counselor Vel. We cannot allow the humans to undermine our authority. If they insist on challenging the existing order, then we will meet that challenge head-on. He turned to the assembled advisors, his voice hardening. Mobilize our fleets. Dispatch our best military assets to the human homeworld. We will show them the true power of the Galactic Council and crush this insurrection before it has a chance to spread. Counselor Xen's eyes widened in alarm. Honored Arbiter, surely you don't mean to engage in outright war with the humans. The Arbiter's expression remained impassive. We have no choice, Counselor. The humans have forced our hand. If they refuse to back down and accept their rightful place, Then we will have no choice but to eliminate them as a threat to the galactic order." As the advisors exchanged a flurry of apprehensive murmurs, the Arbiter rose from his seat, his gaze sweeping the room with an air of grim determination. "Prepare for battle," he commanded. "The fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance, and we cannot afford to lose." The news of the Galactic Council's impending invasion sent shockwaves through the corridors of power on Earth. General Ramirez convened an emergency meeting with the Joint Chiefs, his expression grim as he relayed the latest intelligence. "The Council's fleets are mobilizing," he announced, his voice laced with a mixture of anger and determination. "They're preparing to launch a full-scale assault on our home planet, all because we dared to challenge their authority." Around the table, the military leaders exchanged a flurry of anxious murmurs, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily upon them. For decades, humanity had been content to accept its perceived role as a young, primitive species, but now that paradigm had been shattered, and the consequences threatened to be catastrophic. "This is an act of war," one of the admirals declared, slamming his fist against the polished surface of the table. "The Council is trying to crush us before we can assert our rightful place in the galaxy." Ramirez nodded, his gaze hardening. "Exactly. And we can't afford to back down. Not now, when we're on the cusp of reclaiming our history and our destiny." The general turned to the assembled military leaders, his voice carrying a steely resolve. "Gentlemen, ladies, the time has come for us to stand up and fight. We've spent too long in the shadows, accepting the Council's dismissal of our species. But no more." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "We have the evidence, the technology, and the will to challenge the Council's authority. Now we need to mobilize every resource at our disposal to defend our planet and our people." The room erupted in a flurry of activity as the Joint Chiefs sprang into action, barking orders and coordinating the rapid deployment of military assets. Ramirez watched the proceedings with a grim sense of purpose, his mind racing with the magnitude of the task at hand. "How much time do we have?" he asked, his gaze sweeping the room. "Intelligence reports indicate the Council's fleets will reach Earth in a matter of days," one of the analysts replied, her voice tense with urgency. "We're working around the clock to ready our defenses, but I can't guarantee we'll be fully prepared by the time they arrive." Ramirez nodded, his jaw set with determination. "Then we'll have to make do with what we've got. Activate all available assets: ground forces, air power, orbital defenses, the works, and get me a direct line to the Secretary General. We need to coordinate a unified global response to this threat." As the room erupted into a flurry of activity, Ramirez stepped aside, his mind consumed by the weight of the decisions that lay ahead. The fate of humanity now rested squarely on his shoulders, and he knew that failure was not an option. Across the globe, the news of the Galactic Council's impending invasion sparked a wave of panic and outrage. Governments scrambled to mobilize their militaries, while scientists and engineers raced to enhance Earth's defenses. The world had never before faced such a monumental challenge, and the stakes had never been higher. In the halls of the United Nations, the Secretary General convened an emergency session, his face a mask of grim determination as he addressed the assembled representatives. "My friends, we stand at a crossroads in the history of our species," he began, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. "For centuries, we have been dismissed and overlooked by the Galactic Council, a body that now seeks to crush our rightful place among the stars." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the diplomats. "But no more. Today, we stand united, ready to defend our home, our history, and our very future. The Council may seek to subjugate us, but we will not go down without a fight." A chorus of murmurs and applause rippled through the chamber as the representatives voiced their unwavering support for the unprecedented declaration of defiance. "We have been given a chance to reclaim our destiny," the Secretary General continued. "A chance that has been denied to us for far too long. And we will seize it, no matter the cost." He turned to the military representatives, his expression hardening. General Ramirez and his team have been coordinating a global response to the Council's aggression. We will stand together, as one world, to meet this challenge head-on. The chamber erupted in a thunderous roar of approval, the delegates rising to their feet, their faces alight with a newfound sense of purpose and pride. Within the halls of the Galactic Council, the Supreme Arbiter and his advisors watched the unfolding events with a mixture of alarm and growing unease. The humans, once dismissed as a primitive, insignificant species, had rallied their entire planet to defy the Council's authority, a development that threatened to upend the delicate balance of power that had maintained galactic stability for centuries. "This is an outrage," Councillor Xen exclaimed, his insectoid features contorted in a rare display of emotion. "The humans dare to challenge us, to threaten the very foundations of the Galactic Council." The Arbiter raised a clawed hand, silencing the outburst. "Calm yourself, Councillor. We knew this day would come, when the humans would seek to reclaim their rightful place in the cosmos. Now we must ensure that they are denied that opportunity, no matter the cost." Councillor Vel, the diminutive amphibious being, spoke up, his voice tinged with unease. "But, honored Arbiter, surely we cannot afford to engage in outright war with the humans. The consequences could be devastating, not just for them, but for the entire galactic community." The Arbiter's gaze narrowed, his expression hardening. "We have no choice, Councillor. The humans have forced our hand. If they refuse to submit to our authority, then we will have no choice but to crush their resistance, once and for all." He turned to his advisors, his voice commanding, "Redouble our efforts. Dispatch the full might of the Galactic Council's military might to the human homeworld. We cannot afford to lose this battle, for the fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance." As the advisors scrambled to carry out the Arbiter's orders, a sense of foreboding settled over the chamber. The impending clash between humanity and the Galactic Council was poised to reshape the very foundations of the cosmos, with the outcome uncertain, and the stakes higher than anyone could have imagined. The skies above Earth crackled with the energy of impending battle, as the vast armada of the Galactic Council's military forces emerged from the void of space. Sleek, angular warships hung in the upper atmosphere, their weapons systems powering up with an ominous hum. On the ground, the world's military forces stood ready, their own advanced technology bristling with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. General Ramirez, his expression grim, oversaw the final preparations, his gaze sweeping across the assembled troops and weapons platforms. "This is it, people," he announced, his voice carrying a steely edge. "The Council thinks they can bully us into submission, but they've never faced the full might of a united humanity. Today, we show them the true power of our species." A roar of approval rippled through the ranks, the soldiers and pilots brandishing their weapons with a newfound fervor. Ramirez allowed himself a brief nod of satisfaction before turning his attention back to the rapidly approaching alien fleet. "All units, stand by. Wait for my signal." High above, the Supreme Arbiter of the Galactic Council watched the unfolding scene with a mixture of trepidation and resolute determination. Surrounded by his most trusted advisors, he fixed his gaze upon the defiant human forces, his clawed fingers drumming against the polished surface of the command console. "The humans have had their chance to submit to our authority," he declared, his voice laced with a barely contained fury. "Now they will pay the price for their insolence." With a sharp gesture, the Arbiter issued the order, and the alien warships responded with a devastating barrage of laser fire and missile strikes. Brilliant beams of energy lanced downwards, hammering the human defensive positions with devastating force. Yet, to the Arbiter's growing alarm, the human forces refused to buckle under the onslaught. Powerful energy shields flared to life, deflecting the Council's attacks, while a hail of retaliatory fire streaked upwards, lashing the alien vessels with precision-guided munitions. "Impossible," the Arbiter breathed, his eyes widening in disbelief. "How can they possess such advanced technology?" Councillor Xen, the insectoid advisor, leaned in, his expression etched with a mixture of awe and trepidation. It would seem the humans have been holding back, honored arbiter. Their true capabilities far exceed anything we had anticipated. The arbiter's gaze narrowed, his jaw tightening with barely restrained fury. Then they leave us no choice. Activate the experimental weapons, raise their cities to the ground if necessary, but do not allow them to stand against the might of the Galactic Council. As the battle raged on, the human forces fought with a ferocity that belied their long-held status as a primitive, inferior species. Fighter craft darted and weaved, unleashing devastating missile barrages that tore through the alien vessel's defenses. Orbital weapons platforms bombarded the invading fleet, their concentrated firepower pummeling the Council's warships. Ramirez, his face etched with grim determination, coordinated the human counterattack, his tactical acumen honed by decades of experience. "Keep up the pressure," he barked into his comm device. "We can't let them regroup. Push them back." The human forces surged forward, their advanced technology and unwavering resolve slowly but surely overwhelming the Galactic Council's forces. The Arbiter watched in mounting horror as his armada was systematically dismantled, his grip on the command console tightening with each passing moment. "Impossible," he growled, his reptilian features contorted in a mask of rage. "They cannot be allowed to prevail. Divert all remaining firepower to the human capital. Raise it to the ground, no matter the cost." The alien warships shifted their focus, unleashing a devastating barrage of weapons fire upon the sprawling metropolis of Washington. D.C. towering skyscrapers crumbled under the relentless onslaught, while panic-stricken civilians fled in terror. Yet, even as the city burned, the human forces refused to back down. Powerful defense systems activated, intercepting the incoming strikes and blunting the Council's assault. Ramirez, his eyes narrowed with determination, sent a final desperate message to the Arbiter. "This ends now, Counselor. Your forces have been defeated, and your attempt to subjugate our species has failed. Withdraw your fleets, or face total annihilation." The Arbiter's expression contorted with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "Never," he spat, his clawed hand slamming against the console. "The humans will submit, or they will be destroyed." But as the Arbiter issued the order to redouble the attack, a deafening rumble shook the very foundations of the alien command ship. Alarms blared, and the Arbiter's eyes widened in horror as he watched the largest human warship he had ever seen power up its weapon systems. "No," he breathed, the realization of their impending defeat dawning upon him. "This cannot be." A blinding flash of energy erupted from the human vessel, slamming into the Arbiter's flagship with devastating force. The alien ship shuddered and groaned, its shields collapsing under the relentless barrage. Within moments, it was reduced to a drifting, smoldering ruin, the Arbiter and his advisors perishing in the cataclysmic explosion. As the shockwave rippled through the Galactic Council's armada, the remaining alien vessels broke formation and fled, their commanders paralyzed by the overwhelming display of human might. The battle for Earth had been won, and humanity had emerged victorious, asserting its rightful place among the stars. The skies above Earth fell silent in the aftermath of the battle, the shattered remnants of the Galactic Council's once formidable armada drifting aimlessly through the void. General Ramirez, his expression grim but tinged with a measure of triumph, surveyed the scene, his mind racing with the implications of their victory. "Patch me through to the Council," he commanded, his voice carrying a steely resolve. "It's time we set the record straight, once and for all." Within the battered command center of the Galactic Council's flagship, the remaining advisors huddled in a stunned, fearful silence. The devastating defeat had shattered their confidence, leaving them adrift in the face of humanity's overwhelming display of power. Counselor Xen, his insectoid features etched with a mixture of disbelief and trepidation, spoke up. "Honored Arbiter, he is gone. The humans have destroyed our flagship, and the rest of the fleet is in disarray. We have no choice but to." He trailed off, his voice faltering under the weight of the realization. The Galactic Council, once the undisputed authority in the galaxy, had been humbled, its very foundations threatened by the emergence of a species it had long dismissed as inferior. "Initiate emergency protocols," Sen finally continued, his clawed hands trembling. "Dispatch a transmission to the human forces. We must arrange for a ceasefire and open negotiations." As the message was sent, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern, unyielding visage of General Ramirez. The human commander fixed the remaining advisors with an unwavering gaze, his voice carrying a tone of absolute authority. "Counselors of the Galactic Council, this is General Ramirez of the United Earth Defense Forces. Your attempt to subjugate our species has failed, and your military forces have been decisively defeated. I am here to deliver an ultimatum." Sen swallowed hard, bracing himself for the inevitable demands. "Speak, human. We are listening." First and foremost, Ramirez began, his expression hardening. "You will immediately acknowledge the truth about humanity's history and our rightful status as an elder species in the galactic community. Your attempts to suppress this information and relegate us to a position of inferiority will cease, effective immediately." The advisors exchanged a series of apprehensive glances, the weight of Ramirez's words settling upon them like a heavy mantle. Counselor Vel, the diminutive amphibious being, cleared his throat, his voice trembling. And if we were to comply with this demand?" Ramirez's gaze did not waver. "Then, and only then, will we be willing to negotiate the terms of our integration into the Galactic Council. You will grant us full membership, with all the rights and privileges afforded to the other member species." Sen opened his mouth to protest, but Ramirez raised a hand, silencing him. "I would advise against any further resistance, Counselor. Your military forces are in disarray, and the humans are more than capable of finishing the job we started. The choice is yours. Acknowledge the truth and accept us, or face total annihilation." The advisors fell silent, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily upon them. After a long, tense moment, Sen inclined his head in a reluctant nod. "Very well, General Ramirez. The Galactic Council will comply with your demands. We will formally acknowledge humanity's elder status and extend an invitation for full membership in our governing body." Ramirez allowed himself a small, triumphant smile. "Excellent. I'm glad we could come to an understanding. You will dispatch a representative to our planet within the next standard cycle to begin the integration process. Failure to comply will be met with severe consequences." As the transmission ended, the remaining advisors sat in a stunned silence, their expressions a mix of resignation and disbelief. The Galactic Council, the very embodiment of galactic order and authority, had been forced to capitulate to the demands of a species it had once dismissed as insignificant. Counselor Vel turned to Xen, his amphibious features etched with a hint of trepidation. "What have we done? By acknowledging the human's rightful status, we have set in motion a chain of events that could forever alter the balance of power in the galaxy." Sen's expression hardened, his clawed fingers drumming against the console. "There was no other choice, Vel. The humans have proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with, a species capable of challenging the very foundations of our authority. We had no choice but to acquiesce to their demands, lest we faced total annihilation." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the battered command center. "From this day forward, the Galactic Council will never be the same. Humanity has carved out its rightful place among the stars, and we must adapt to this new reality, or risk being consigned to the dustbin of history." Back on Earth, General Ramirez stood tall, his shoulders square with a newfound sense of pride and purpose. The long-buried truth about humanity's past had been revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the human world celebrated their hard-won victory, Ramirez knew that this was just the beginning. A new era of cooperation, discovery, and endless possibilities was on the horizon. The age of human dominance had finally dawned.